Om Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhur-Bhuvasvaha. Om Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhur-Bhuvasvaha. Om Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amrutangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you.
Can I share this thing? Okay.
Yeah, you can share.
Thank you. May I ask some of the participants to mute themselves? Participants, can you kindly mute yourself? Dayanand Maneji has to mute himself. I think all the others are muted. So thank you. We will take up the 16th verse, and is it are you able to see the screen?
We can.
Okay, thank you. Vapustushadibhihi koshaihi yuktam yuktya avaghatatah atmanamantaram shuddham vivicyat tandulam yatha. Says, through discriminative self-analysis and logical thinking, one should separate the pure self within from the sheaths, as one separates the rice from the husk, bran, etc. that are covering it. Here again, another very age-old and typical Vedantic, example is given. Tusha means the husk or the covering. Generally, if you see a rice grain, the kernel inside the rice, actually inside is covered by minimum of 2 layers. One layer is the husk and then the bran, and some polishing is also done in the case of the rice we get. So it is covered by this. Now this example is given to say that the various bodies and sheets which we have talked in the previous verses are like this covering on the rice grain, which have to be removed. These coverings have to be removed by what is called as by actually pounding. Avaghatataha is actually pounding. Yuktya means with logical reasoning and thinking. Atmanam antaram shuddham, the inmost pure self. Vivichyat, vivechana is a discriminative faculty. Vivechana, or the discriminative process or discriminative self-analysis, as he calls it here. So the example has to be very carefully examined, that first the husk is removed through pounding. Avaghatataha, the pounding is done. Okay, that means what is this pounding is to be done with through logical thinking. So logical thinking is very important to remove the husk. Further removal of the bran and the superficial covering on the seed has to be removed through discrimination. Of what? Of the koshas and the bodies. The three bodies which we have discussed and the five koshas, these have to be removed through this process of logical thinking and discrimination. And the example that is given is that of tandula. Tandula means rice. So the tandula, the rice has tusha, that means the husk, the covering, and the bran on it. That's why he has said tushadi bhihi. Adi means etc. Tusha and other coatings that are there on the rice seed have to be removed through two processes. One is through the pounding using logical thinking, and the other is to remove them through discrimination. Discriminative self-analysis, this is the term used here. So this is how one removes these two things. And this again is, as I said, a beautiful example, very traditional and examples which are very much, common to the people to understand. These sheets, they want to, make it clear that these bodies and sheets are actually material in nature, and also without the seed, they have no value inside. A mere husk doesn't have much value. More importantly, the emphasis is on the material nature of these bodies and sheets, and also that without the consciousness of the Atman, they are actually lifeless. They do not have an independent existence of their own, with the life principle operating in them without the presence of the Atman. So the presence of the inner core, Antaram, Shuddham, it is also pure. Pure again in the sense that nothing attaches to it. So that is the nature of the Atman, which is the inmost pure aspect, which is covered by the sheets and the bodies, which have to be removed through logical reasoning at one level and through discrimination at the other level. Logical reasoning pertains to the mental process. Discrimination is a faculty of the buddhi. So both mind and buddhi, the manas and the buddhi, both are required in order to remove this what is called as the covering on the Atman. And the example that is given is that of a rice grain. Tandulam yatha, as like the tandula, like the rice grain, which is covered by tusha, which is the husk. Adi means etc., which is the you get the bran and other things in that. So that is how it has to be removed. This principle is very clear as to what is the action that is required: logical thinking and discrimination. Both these faculties have to be developed, I should say, to a great extent, whereby one is able to come to the core of the things, which is nothing but the pure, inmost self, indwelling principle, which is called the Atman. See, we have seen earlier, we have also clarified that Atman embodied through these sheets and bodies is called the Jiva. And sometimes it is also referred to as the Jiva. The actual principle is Atman. The actual principle is Atman. When it is associated with these bodies and the sheets, it becomes Jivatman at one level. And when it goes down further and becomes grosser, when it goes further down and becomes grosser, you will be able to see the Dehatman also in that. Okay? There is some disturbance somewhere.
He's just muted himself, Krishnapani.
I muted.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you. So, so this is the fundamental point to be remembered. That these are all coverings. These do not represent the true self. And as I mentioned earlier also, one important point to be noted is, it is through some basic analysis we can come to some conclusions. When we refer to ourselves, when I say I or me or mine, through a very logical thinking process, I can come to this conclusion that I am not the body alone. I am not this body alone. If somebody says and points to himself and says I, and the other person puts a question to him, are you this body? The answer would be no, I am not the body alone. I am something beyond the body. Okay, what is that beyond the body? Are you your thoughts? Yes, to some extent, but I am not only thoughts. Then when I say, are you your emotions? You say no. I may identify myself with my emotions at one level, but I am not my emotions alone. So through this logical thinking itself, one can come to a certain conclusion that this body is changing. There is mutation in this body, in the body cells. You can see the principle of change in this, as we have seen earlier about birth, growth, modification, disease, decay, and death, and so on and so forth. Similarly, we see that our emotions are also changing. Sometimes we are happy, sometimes we are dull, we are active, we are angry, we are elated, we are sorrowful. But these emotions are also changing. Similarly, our thoughts are also changing. So all these things we can actually perceive without anybody else's help. We don't need a great scientist or a great philosopher or a saint or sage to come and say, tell us that this is what is happening to you. The body is changing, the thoughts are changing, the emotions are changing, the feelings are changing. But you are remaining as it is. There is something called as the me, something called as the I, which is more than all these things, which is beyond all these things. While all these things are composed in me, and I am composed of these things, and I may identify myself at different points of time or at different levels as my body or my thought or my emotions or my feelings or whatever it is, still I know that there is something beyond this. Not restricted to this alone. So that is the logical thinking that is required. Similarly, discrimination, the faculty of discrimination. The faculty of discrimination tells us or indicates to us the difference between what is real and what is unreal, what is permanent and what is impermanent, what is eternal and what is ephemeral. Sadasad vivechana, nitya nitya viveka. What is nitya and what is anitya? A higher faculty of the buddhi also has to be activated, where the faculty of discrimination functions and tells us that this is not real. It is something beyond this. See, for instance, science also has told us now, has made it very clear to us that what we see is not reality at all. The powers of the senses, the faculties which we have, are so inadequate and so limited and so inefficient in their functioning that what we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we smell or what we feel through touch, all are actually inadequate and insufficient and very much limited in their operations. Lot of, you can get in the internet that how the illusions can be created, visual illusions. If you close your one eye and see something, you see something differently. If you close your left eye, you see something else. If you close the right eye, you see something else. And you look at something very closely, you see something else. We look at it from afar, you see something else. You understand the point? So it is very clearly brought out that what you think or believe to be real in some fashion may not necessarily be the total reality, or whatever you see could be a distorted reality also. This understanding of the limitations of our own senses and the mind. We see the limitations of the mind also. It is incapable of comprehending everything, incapable of remembering everything, incapable of analyzing everything. Some people have a great capacity for analysis. Some others don't have that capacity at all. So seeing the limitations of the organs of perception and organs of action and the mind and also the buddhi by itself, which is a limiting agent. This is discrimination. And this discrimination is something which should form the constant background of our consciousness. That is more important. It's not as though on and off you come to the understanding that it is limited or it is distorted or it is not the total reality. Only when somebody points it out, you think and say, oh, yes, I see it is true that way. That's not the idea. The spiritual perception talks about discrimination forming a background of your consciousness throughout, unbroken consciousness. So it means it should always be there in the background. That what you are seeing, what you are feeling, what you are experiencing is limited, is distorted, is partial, is fragmented. So this background helps us to be alert to things. Apramatta is the term used. Being apramatta means to be alert, awake, and attentive to the whole thing. Then what happens is you will see a transformation happening, and you are opening certain channels which will give you a glimpse of what exactly is the nature of the Atman, the nature of consciousness, the nature of life principle, which is operating through this whole system. That is the purpose, that is the meaning of this. Yuktya avaghatataha and vivichyat, yukti and viveka. Because this viveka is the primary factor in sadhana. In sadhana chatushtaya, which we have seen earlier in Atmabodha and Viveka Chudamani also, it starts with Viveka. Viveka leads to Vairagya. When we are adequately prepared through Viveka and Vairagya, then the acquisition of the Shat Sampatti, Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhana, the Shat Sampatti becomes easier. Without Viveka and Vairagya, we will be falling a prey to the other 6 enemies. Viveka and Vairagya will take to the friends, take towards your friends or your assets or your true wealth, which is the Shat Sampatti. But if that were not to be there, Viveka and Vairagya are not there, then you fall a prey to the 6 enemies. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Craving, desire, anger, greed, delusion, arrogance, and envy. These are called as the Arishad Varga. This is the 6 enemies. The other are called as the 6 great virtues or assets or attainments. There is a great emphasis on this in the Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist thinking also. They are called as in the Buddhist philosophy, they are called as paramitas. Paramita has 2 meanings. Paramita is those which take you across the river of this or this ocean of samsara, paramita. And they are also called as the 6 perfections. They call them as, I'll not go into that, but that is the importance given to it. There they talk about dana, shila, and other factors. So you see, but the basis for all this is Viveka and Vairagya. In another form, the same idea is presented here as Yukti and Viveka. Yukti means logical reasoning or thinking. Viveka means the discriminative faculty of discrimination. What is this faculty of discrimination? Very clearly, the definition is given as you have to make a distinction between what is true and what is untrue, what is eternal and what is ephemeral. And I already mentioned about logical thinking. one can come to the conclusion that I am not all these things through which I operate. I am something much more and beyond this, and I am able to sense the reality of it. Nobody needs to tell us that I am there, isn't it? Do you need an external confirmation or evidence, or somebody has to certify that you are there? It's not necessary. I know that I am there. I don't need any external confirmation or affirmation about my presence or my being there. That is why the Atma is called Swayam Prakasha. You don't need another body to illuminate the sun. The sun does not need another sun to illuminate its presence, isn't it? So the nature of the Atman is also compared to that. And here the point is very clearly made. Because he is talking about the rice grain, he is using two terms to Atma. One is inmost, the other is pure. That means all the activities pertaining to the bodies and the koshas do not affect the Atman at all. This is that's why it is called as inner and pure. Like the actual rice seed, which is inside the husk and bran and whatever covering is there. These things, you have to uncover all these things through the pounding of logical thinking and through the process of discrimination. This is the important aspect of identifying, not fully, we can't really get to that, the core of it as yet, because there are so many other issues involved in it. We'll come to that progressively. We'll come to it progressively, but the idea is that we cannot come to it suddenly because we are accustomed to this kind of living through the bodies, through the sheets, through the thought process, through our emotions and all. They are holding us down and binding us to a great extent. So logical thinking and this discrimination should be a constant process. It cannot be a one-time affair. Because every time there is this possibility of becoming inattentive. Every time there is a possibility of becoming inalert. So one has to be very conscious about it. One has to be very conscious about it. And as I said, we have to hold it at the background of our consciousness. So every time, it's not a question of actually reaffirmation, but every time coming back to the idea that I am not merely the body, I am not merely the senses, I am not merely my thoughts and emotions and feelings. So that is what is important for us. That's the idea that is presented here. And the example of this rice grain is a very beautiful example in one way, because it is a very a common example which can be understood easily. I don't know how many of you modern. I asked some of the youngsters. Some of them might not have seen a rice grain as such. The paddy. Some of them might not have actually seen a paddy corn, or where the paddy is grown and which has a husk on it, and that's unfortunate. But the times when this was written, it was something quite common, because agrarian society was there, and people would be associated with nature and the agriculture process, and therefore they could very easily see the kind of coverings that a rice seed or the grain inside has. So that's the beautiful illustration that is given to us here. Yeah, I see some chat. Yeah, called kernel. Yes, that's called the kernel. The term is used somewhere else also. Janaki Ramji, so we must always remember, at least while eating, that we are like paddy. Yeah, that is true. That's what I'm saying. Not only while eating, as I said, as frequently as possible, if we recollect this and keep that recollection in mind at the background, it helps us. It helps us. See, the otherwise, it's very easy to fall into this trap of thoughts and emotions. Very easy to fall into the trap and think that we are our thoughts and we are our emotions, because predominantly we live in them more than the objective world, which is only for support as a support system. Most of our life is spent in our mind through our thoughts and emotions, which are the biggest, in a way, I should say, the hurdles for understanding one's own deeper nature. Okay, then we can go to 17th. This is another beautiful example. Sada sarvagatopyatma na sarvatra avabhasate buddhavevavabhaseta swacheshu pratibimbavat. This is again every verse we have been seeing for the past, right from the beginning, that there is a beautiful simile, beautiful example that is being given. Here he says the Atman does not shine in everything, although he is all pervading. He is manifest only in the inner equipment, the intellect or the buddhi, just as the reflection in a clean mirror. This is another example that is given. This point has to be very carefully understood. Why is it that though the Atman is said to be sarvagataha, that means spread out everywhere, all pervading, and capable of going and moving anywhere and everywhere, why is it that this does not shine in everything, through everything? This is the question which we have to understand very carefully. He says, Buddhau eva avabhaseta. Only in the buddhi does this become evident or shines forth or manifests. And the example given is that of Swacheshu pratibimbavat. Pratibimba is a reflection. Can you see the reflection in a mirror which is covered with dust, which is covered with mud? No, you can't do it. So similarly, though this Atman is all pervading, it does not shine through everything and everybody. It's not that it is not present, but you have to remember the fact of the matter that what you cannot experience as a presence is as good as absence, isn't it? When I do not know the presence of it, in spite of the fact that it is there, it doesn't really help me. As far as I am concerned, it is not there at all. That is what happens. See, the Indian thought, the Indian scriptures have given a very beautiful example and the idea of the presence of evil in this world. Several foolish people have been questioning and saying that if God is there and if God is good and almighty and all powerful and all that, how can there be evil in this world? There are two problems with this question. First of all, the fellow who is putting this question is thinking that or imagining that he is good, which is not true. Every one of us, through our ignorance, through our greed, through the state of our mind, we have been acting contrary to all laws of nature and society, isn't it? At some point or the other. Not that we always do it. At some point or the other in our life, if we look back, we have acted in ignorance. We have acted through greed, through jealousy, through anger, through ego, through arrogance. That means that evil is present in me also. So the fundamental assumption of this questioner is that he is good and there is something bad outside in the world, which itself is a wrong thing. The second element is he is assuming that this so-called God is here to interfere in every matter and everything and take corrective action just because there is this presence of evil. The presence of evil is inevitable because of ignorance. And the whole creation comes out of ignorance and limitation. So there is an inbuilt mechanism for this duality, dvandva, this duality of what we call as light and darkness, good and bad, good and evil, and all the combinations which we find. There is an inherent logic in the presence of all these things. And how does that presence of the Atman or the Brahman or the Paramatma or Ishvara or God or whatever you name you call it, how does it act when I do not recognize its presence at all? This is the problem. Like somebody, when a theologian had, he was very fond of putting such questions and discussing. And once when he was having a haircut, he put this question to a barber. The barber was not a very great theologian or philosopher or anything like that, but he was a wise fellow. When this question was put by the theologian, then the barber said, "Sir, there should not be anybody in this town with long hair." He says, how can it be? Because I am there, no? I'm a barber. So there should not be anybody in this town with long hair. If I find anybody with a long hair, I should keep on going to them and cutting their hair. Then the theologian says, how can you do that? They have to come, you can't go to them, isn't it? Yes, the logic is the same thing. You have to come to God. You have to recognize the presence of such a thing like a barber, such a person like a barber, and you have to come to him to have a haircut. It's not the barber's job to go to everybody and whether he asks for it or doesn't ask for it, he can't go on cutting the hair. So this inherent presence of evil is explained in the Upanishadic, thought process itself. And this is brought out very clearly to say that evil, as we understand, is not something permanent. It is only as long as ignorance is there, you will act in this manner. So it's a question of removing the ignorance and finding the presence of that principle which operates through the whole universe. This is very beautifully brought out in the Bhagavad Gita also. In verse number 12 of chapter 7, a very beautiful idea is presented, where he says, Mattaye tan vidhi natvaham teshu te mayi. I am not in them, but they are in me. He says, whatever things which are sattvic or rajasic or tamasic, know that these proceed from me alone. I am not in them, but they are in me. This is the beautiful statement. It has to be understood very carefully. I am not in them, but they are in me. What does it mean when I am not in them? It means they don't recognize my presence at all. So how can I be there in them? But they are all in me because everything proceeds from me. Whether it is sattvic or rajasic or tamasic, everything proceeds from me. So this is a very important concept that is brought out to very clearly indicate or explain the presence of evil in this world, manifested world. It is bound to be present when you do not recognize the presence of the divinity. The absence of recognition of divinity is the seed for the growth of evil. So that is the same idea it is said here, that the Atman does not shine in everything and everybody, although he is all pervading. He is manifest only in the inside, inner core, the buddhi. In the buddhi, it shines through that buddhi, through that great faculty of discrimination. Just as a reflection you find in a mirror only when the mirror is clean. And this idea is further emphasized in the same chapter 17, where he says, Namam dushkrutino mudhaha prapadyante naradhamaha mayaya apahruta jnana asuram bhavamashritaha. Base, deluded evildoers do not surrender to me. Due to Maya, they have been robbed of their knowledge, apahruta jnana, and they assume demonic attitude, asuram bhavamashrita. Because they are robbed of their wisdom, of their discrimination, of their jnana through Maya. And they are foolish, they are deluded, they are base in nature, evildoers. How do you expect such a person to recognize divinity in him? That divinity is never recognized. So though the Atman is present in everything, in everywhere, and it's all pervading, it does not shine through everything and everybody. Because the faculty of discrimination is not developed in them. The faculty of discrimination, unless it is developed, and we need not go outside. My whole point is, if we look at ourselves, it will be known that the seed of evil is there in us also. The seed of evil is there in us also, because that Atman, that principle is not shining through us. The principle is always causing the problem. So therefore, it always creates a problem, an issue with us. Okay, so this aspect has to be very clearly understood. And there is some chat I see here. Ramchandranji says, while intelligence at buddhi level gives right guide, we fail at last vocal level, since the detailed analysis has to happen at intellect level. Lack of alertness and attention cause failure to recognize the dubious plans of others. Yeah, see, you undergo that process, you are inattentive, you are not alert, and therefore it always leads to suffering. And Janaki Ramji says tamas is evil. Yeah, tamas is evil in the sense, tamas is darkness, tamas is ignorance. The tamasic qualities are all described in the Bhagavad Gita, we need not go into it. But basically what it means is, it means indolence, inertia, a kind of stupor, darkness. So there is this inherent presence of this darkness or ignorance in us, and we find that sometimes becomes a predominant factor, and we operate based on that tamasic view, and therefore it has this propensity to manifest. And yeah, Kali Yuga more evil. You see, there is a Yuga Dharma to certain things. I would not like to go into it, but there is a, if time permits, sometimes later I can talk about this Yuga Dharma. What is the basis of these yugas and all? But generally, it is said that in Kali Yuga there is a predominance of this tamasic element, and therefore there is a greater presence of evil, and it appears as though that it is dominated by it, but it is not true. However powerful the evil forces may be, they have a self-limiting thing. They are self-limiting, and they will be always overcome by the good part of it. The goodness will prevail, and evil will always be won over. Satyameva jayate nanrutam. See, Satyam, truth alone will triumph till the end. But unfortunately, when we say in the end, we don't know. It could be 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. We don't know what is the time frame in which it operates, because there are a lot of karma involved in the whole process. Okay. And duality is inherent creation. Yes, duality is very much inherent in creation, because it's only through that process one recognizes it. Bina ji says it goes back to the last verse, where if we don't have logical thinking, we will never be able to recognize. So the importance to Jnana Yoga is given. Obviously, see, the Jnana is the basis of all these things. You cannot truly understand bhakti also, you cannot truly understand karma also without this logical thinking, without this discrimination faculty. So it is important. We need not divide into all these things. This division is only for analytical purposes, but it's an artificial division. Karma, jnana, bhakti, or other yogas which we talk about, they are not watertight compartments or airtight compartments, and they are not exclusive. They're not exclusive. It's only for analytical purpose we identify certain actions, certain things as pertaining to a particular mode of yoga, which is either karma yoga or jnana yoga or bhakti yoga. But the division is artificial according to me. The division is only for our understanding and analysis. But whenever we act, it should always be integrated. That's the meaning of yoga. All action should be integrated. It can't be divisive and it can't be partial. So that classification is not a very important as such. But basically, you are given a mind, and it has certain faculties of analysis, and they have to be very efficiently and effectively used to come to certain conclusions and certain convictions. And then you go about with the faculty of discrimination to fundamentally understand what is impermanent and what is permanent. Is there something called as eternal, timeless, permanent in us or not? It's not a question of mental process alone. It is a question of transcending the mind at one level and coming face to face with that reality that yes, there is a presence which is untouched by this whole damn thing. That is more important. Yeah, Janik Ramji, you are right. The 16th chapter is about the Daivi Sampatti and Asuri Sampatti. So when we come into manifest, the dust on the mirror is there already unless we make an effort to clear it. Yes, there is a very famous quote of H.P. Blavatsky, which she has given in the Key to Theosophy, which and in other texts also, where she says the mind is like a mirror. I think it's in the Voice of the Silence, if I am not wrong. She very clearly says that the mind is like a mirror. As it reflects, it gathers dust. As it reflects, it gathers dust. So every time you need to keep on cleaning it. Every time you need to keep on cleaning it. In a way, you have to erase the past. You have to erase all your unnecessary, useless experiences and baggage and memory and everything. They have to be every time cleared. So that's a very famous quote of H.P. Blavatsky, that the mind is like a mirror, and as it reflects, it gathers dust. It is quite inherent. We can see, why do we need to clean our house every day? Why do we need to sweep our floors and wipe them and then keep them clean, and then frequently keep everything, cleaning all the objects in the house? Because inherently the atmosphere, the environment has that, and over a period of time, everything gathers dust. So it's the same with the mind also, and it happens that way. And you need to, in order to allow the reflection to be perfect in the mirror, you need to clean the mirror. That's how you need to do it. Okay. It was working in my background about this H.P. Beach's quote, and you have brought it out when you mentioned that it comes with the manifestation process. It's also the same with the body. You can't have a perfect body at our level. Through the process of our living, we accumulate so much of waste in us, and periodically it has to be cleaned. It can't be cleaned completely also. It's the nature of the things, and it grows old. There is disease and decay, and finally death. So we are made of the earth, and earth to earth we have to give it back to it. They have to be resolved into the Panchabhuta. So everything is of that nature, except the Atman, which is the inmost pure consciousness. Everything else is in some way or the other corrupted and limited and impure. That is the nature of things. You can't really help it. We have to go through this process of understanding that. So this factor, this verse number 17 has to be very clearly understood as to why this Atman doesn't reflect in everything. Though it is all pervading, why does it not shine through? Here it is very clearly said that it doesn't shine through. But I'm going one step further and trying to understand why does it not shine through everybody and everything? It is because of this nature, because we do not recognize its presence. Our buddhi, our faculty of discrimination is not developed enough to come to this understanding that this presence is what is there. And if we do not recognize its presence, it is as good as not having it. And therefore, the reflection of it will never be there unless you clean it. You completely clean the mirror, then only allow the reflection to be there. So that's what is brought out in this particular verse. I think it's almost 11 o'clock. Yeah, any further questions or any further points? We can discuss, or otherwise I think these two verses are okay, because this 18th verse again is a continuation of a further discussion on that.
Right.
Yeah, any point anybody would like to make a point? Bina ji?
See, only point is we can also say only buddhi is like the mirror. Other
Yeah.
koshas are non-reflective material.
Non-reflective in the sense, the as you rightly said, only the Vijnanamaya and Anandamaya koshas have this faculty of reflection to some extent of the Atman, the principle of Atman. Others are actually not only not reflecting, but they are also creating further problem for making it impure. They're not only not helping in this thing, but they are also creating problem for not reflecting that at all. So that's the reason why it has to be developed. The buddhi, the faculty of buddhi, only through that this will reflect, this will shine forth. The presence of a higher principle, the principle of Atman operating through us, can be sensed in some manner only through buddhi. That's the idea.
So,
Yes, sir?
Krishnaphani ji,
Yeah.
what we call our conscience is actually a reflection of divinity.
Yes.
And we don't recognize it. And that's
Yeah.
how the evil and, everything
Yeah.
else comes into play. Right?
There is this, the conscience, you can equate it to this buddhi, because in a way it pricks and keeps telling us what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah.
But over a period of time, we make it so blunt and we don't listen to it.
Yeah.
Don't listen to that small voice coming from inside, whereby what happens is it stops pinching or pricking.
Right.
So it is as good as not present in somebody who is constantly in that state of
Yeah.
ignorance.
It's a non-recognition of divinity, in a
Yes.
sense, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Any further question? If there is no further question, we can close the session for today.
Yeah, we can.
Ramchandranji, earlier he had put something in the chat. I think it is clear. Ramchandranji.
No,
Yeah. Okay, then.
he's not responding. Then we'll close,
Yeah.
Krishnaphani ji. We'll do 18 onwards next week.
Yeah.
We can do.
Actually, I wanted to discuss one small thing here.
Yeah.
Tomorrow onwards, the daylight saving time is coming into effect here. Now the difference is 12 and a half hours between you and us here. It will be 13 and a half hours.
Okay.
It will be 13 and a half hours, but it is in a way comfortable for me because it will be when it is 10 o'clock for you, now it is 9:30 in the night.
Okay.
It is 10 o'clock on 1st November or 11 o'clock at 1st November. It is 10:30 for me now. From tomorrow onwards, it will be 9:30. So we'll be daylight saving time will come into operation. So next time onwards, I need to, reset my clock so that I come at 8:30 instead of 9:30.
Acha, okay.
The same thing with our
Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita also.
Right.
Because both are in the morning for you, it's okay. But other programs where the evening programs are there, it will be too early for me. But that's okay. That we will take care of it.
Okay, fine.
Krishnaji, Ram here. Hello, Krishnaji, Ram here.
Yeah. Tell me, Ramchandranji.
Yes, sir, the principal trust everybody unless they prove otherwise is not working, Krishnaji. And so many times you land up in problems just because you are trusting people. And now I see that working at a higher level alone doesn't help. You have to come down to intellect level to analyze things and then take precautions. Otherwise, you're getting into trouble, sir.
Sir, there are two issues. There are two issues to this. First of all, to the extent possible, try to withdraw from all mundane activities.
Okay.
From almost all the mundane activities, try to withdraw from it. Okay.
Okay. Sir.
That way, what happens is this cunning mind acting in the mundane world, the frequency of that operation will come down.
True. Very true.
Number one. So that is one aspect of it. Second aspect of it is, see, trusting people is not bad as such. Because if you
Yes.
think that by trusting people you are cheated or somebody creates problems for you,
Yes.
you can look at the positive side of it and see that they are here to exhaust your karma.
Yes. That is what I was just thinking. That is
Yes.
one way of satisfying that they are
No, it's not
helping
a
me
question
to.
of satisfaction, sir. Don't think in terms of satisfaction that he has cheated me. Okay, it is his karma and my karma. I'm not talking about satisfaction. It could be, see, we come across people only through karmic links,
Yes.
either
Yes.
old or new.
Yes.
So this karmic link will get exhausted at some point or the other. It's not infinite.
True.
So because of that, let us not become suspicious and distrustful of people and always trying to go into that mental state of over precaution and our mind also acting in a cunning manner. See, Jiddu Krishnamurti used to put it in a different way. He would like to say that in one or two cases he said, when somebody questioned, sir, if we live the way you are talking about, then people will cheat us or people will take us for a ride and all. Then he said,
Yes.
sir, it is sometimes to be a victim of these things rather than ourselves always having the upper hand of cheating others.
True.
See, do you think that we are not cheating others? In very subtle ways, we are cheating so many people.
Not consciously, but maybe.
No, that is not the important thing, sir. You can become conscious of the mind and its activity and see how it acts in a very cunning manner, in a very devious manner, in a very selfish manner. All that is a part of the same game.
That is, you have to see impartially, and only we can.
Very
say
impartially and very progressively, the slightest nuance of selfishness or motive or some greed operating through us has to be removed and rejected totally. That is purification, no, sir. Please remember, I told you only two things. The whole sadhana requires purification and exhaustion of karma.
Exhaustion of karma.
So in purification, you will come across this.
Yes, sir.
In purification, you will come across the slightest nuance of ignorance, of selfishness, of greed, of some motive behind our actions will come out. That's the reason why Krishnaji used to always question, can you live a totally purposeless life? Can you understand the nature of your motives, your desires, how they act and how they mold us? We cannot be totally free of it. We cannot be totally free of it unless we recognize it at the smallest, at the microcosmic level, at the smallest level. See, what happens is I keep this in mind in the sense when I am talking, I try to be very conscious and I fail several times. Failure is not an issue, but I keep trying myself. Is there an element of arrogance in me? Is there an element of some superiority in me? where I think and I know and all the listeners who are coming to listen to me don't know? Which is a very cunning way the mind acts. And if you are not sensitive to it, you become arrogant. You can become, you can have that sense of superiority, which is the most
You
foolish
fall
thing.
for it.
Because
You fall for
see,
it.
this wisdom is nobody's grandfather's property, sir.
Mm,
And nobody can have the total wisdom. So,
yes.
so this is the problem. So one has to be very, very, very cautious about every thought, every feeling, every emotion. Otherwise, what happens is we'll fall into this trap.
True.
That is the that is the problem. That is the point. So you have to see this at a very deep level, and don't come to conclusion, sir, I should not trust people. Or when I started trusting people, they started cheating me, and then I'm getting into more and more problems. It is bound to happen. It is bound to happen. If I want to exploit you, and if
Yes.
you think that I am a close friend of yours, I'll come and ask you, sir, I have got some urgent requirement. Why don't you sign a bank document along with me, standing as a guarantor for my loan? And with lot of trust, you sign it, and I cheat you. This exploitation is a part of the whole game. So I am exploiting at one level, you are exploiting at another level. So
Yes.
therefore, as I mentioned, to a great extent, withdrawing from almost all the mundane activities is what is required at one level, at least at one age. At a certain age, one should ignore all these things and never get into them at all.
Sarji, when I
Yeah,
was dealing with many issues, this kind of a thing is not that much affecting. But when your mind is calm, quiet for long period, and suddenly something inevitably comes, unable to stand that.
sir, it is the way karma is telling you that you are
Mm,
not adequately prepared. The so-called
yes,
preparation which you are undergoing, or you are making the effort, is
not
not
enough.
sufficient. A small shock is disturbing
Mm,
you.
yes.
Yes, it will. That proves that we are not immune
Mm.
to it.
And
We are not-
I wonder what small thing affects this much. That also gives disappointment.
Sir, this is a part of the same process, sir. You are not you are not alone in this. All of us go
Mm.
through the same kind of things.
Oh
But
God.
are we, see, the important point is how soon are you able to come back to equanimity? How soon are you able to absorb the shock and come to normalcy?
See, when it comes one
Normally,
after the other,
they
when
will
it
come.
comes one
They
after
say,
the other,
sir, you are forgetting one thing.
Mm,
When you are trying to progress faster on the spiritual path,
mm,
expect lot of frequency of this happening. They will happen more and more and more and more.
it is happening. It is happening.
Only when
Not,
you withdraw from the spiritual path, you can slow it down.
oh,
That is the reason why the spiritual path is said to be very steep and difficult. Annie Besant compares this to climbing a steep
yeah.
mountain without a rope,
Sir, it is
and you
not
can't
steep. It
stop.
is vertical. It is
And
inclined,
you
sir.
can,
Inclined.
yeah, okay. No, the incline will be like that only. The incline will be like that only. You can't help it.
I'm,
You
I'm
can't. You
saying
can't really help it.
inclined negative
So
slope, sir. People have to go
face
below.
it, sir. Face it. Face it. Live with it. Come to terms with it. Don't
Mm,
escape from it. Don't run away from it. Face it. If it is not
can't
of
run
your
away.
own making, it is the making of karma.
Yes, it is not my making. You know my
That it
daughter
is-
case, no?
Yeah. That is your past karma acting on you. Come. You come face to face with it.
Mm.
Take the challenge.
Yes, sir.
It will happen. There's nothing wrong about it. Maybe it is good in one way.
I don't know. I mean,
No. You will know it. It is definitely good in one way, and we'll come to it.
one thing. Last class you said surrender is one possibility to come to terms.
Yes. There's no escape, sir. There is no escape to it.
Mm.
Even avatars could not escape the karma.
True. Very true.
So let us go with it. It is bound to happen, and it is our fortitude. That is where the 6 attainments, titiksha, uparati, titiksha, shraddha, samadhana, all these things are given because of this reason only.
True.
Titiksha is that endurance, fortitude.
Endurance.
And uparati, withdraw from these things.
Yes, withdrawal.
Okay, sir.
Thanks a lot, sir. God bless you.
Thank you. Sajni ji.
Yes.
Yeah, can we close it with Loka Samasta? Because Bina ji has left. Okay. You can. You are mute. You are mute. Sajni ji, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Krishnaphani ji, for taking us on this journey week after week and helping us to reduce the burden of our karma and also in this process of self-purification. So thank you so much. We are eternally grateful to you for this. And now I'd like to tell everyone that we have programs every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So please join us. And if you can't join us, we would like you to tell at least 2 other people, because Banisi has started this with such love. And we would like more people to join us. Thursdays, we have a Spiral of Wisdom satsangs. On Fridays, we have a Bhagavad Gita with Mr. Krishnaphani. Saturday, we have Spiritual Quest. And on Sundays, as you know, you're with us, Atmabodha. So kindly spread the word. If each one tells 2 people, we will definitely get another 50 people onto our satsangs. Thank you. We now close with Loka Samasta, and kindly send out a lot of loving energy, a lot of healing energy to everyone, because we really need this right now. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you, Krishnaphani ji. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.